I am Dracula. I bid you welcome.
I had read Bram Stoker's Dracula. I read the book about 20 years ago.
It's just a scratch.
Probably seen him only in about a half a dozen movies. I think he's been in 150.
Come here.
The folkloric vampire, in the tradition that Stoker would have been familiar with, was a walking corpse. I mean, it was something that came back from the dead, was still dressed in its death clothes. Romantic poets borrowed the vampire from folklore and then turned it into an aristocratic nobleman who was a seducer of women. That goes way back to Lord Byron. The Dracula figure that Stoker created has been romanticized mainly by 20th century popular culture.
Why does that thought of something dark that comes in the night and moves to your neck, why is that appealing to some people? It's terrifying, but it's also, you know, you're drawn to it.
As I have told you, my dear, ours will be a different life, without material needs. A life that will last through eternity.
The minute you evoke death, you evoke terror, which is part of the fascination of the vampire, because the vampire walks around in this usually very beautiful human form, indistinguishable, except sometimes by its habits from other human beings, but it's dead, and it wants you to go with it.
You admire my ring?
When I look at it, I see glimpses of a strange world. A world of people who are dead, and yet alive.
It is the place from which I just returned.
It frightens me.
Well, it will drive away your fears.
It has something to do with the sort of quiet torment of a person who has made a compact with the devil and will live forever, but is not allowed to feel anything.
To die, to be really dead, that must be glorious.
Well, Count Dracula.
There are far worse things awaiting man than death.
You know, he doesn't want to be the living dead. He'd rather be living or dead, not this.
Maybe it's the immortality, and maybe it's the sexy getup. I don't know what it is, or that he can fly or turn into various creatures, or that he gets all the girls. Done well, people cannot get enough of Dracula. I like him because he's cool.
Let us begin!
There, my darlings. Do not worry. I shall find another bride.
What? Do we mean so little to you?
Have you no heart?
No! I have no heart!
I think the Dracula myth is a sexy story. What exactly is sexy about it is a kind of perpetual mystery and an enigma.
I think Dracula catches the attention because he is evil, but he's very sexy. But the fact that it sucks blood, it feels like it's a search for love. It's not. Of course it's not.
As you're doing this thing with her, you could lean in a little bit closer to her. I just think you could get a little bit, and then do this. Then your head kind of comes back as your fangs come out. You know, so, yeah, there you go. She's kind of like a pompous rock star, but in a really good way. How Richard pulled that off, I don't know. It just feels so period.
Now that it is, as you yourself have said, a triumph of science over God!
Cut front of it. That was great. I'd say this is the only time in my career, was with Richard, where what I saw when I was directing it wasn't necessarily what would end up on film. I've never had that. I always be like, looking at dailies and going, I don't remember him doing that before. I don't know what it is about him, but he does something sexy and twisted and really cool.
Richard was one of those surprising people that just jumped right in and said, I can do it, and did it.
Now
camera will actually be looking at you.
I didn't really practice much with him. I said, dude, let's go over and try something. He jumped in and he showed me he was comfortable, like, right off the bat, and just started adding to it.
Why can't they just leave us alone? We never kill more than our fill, or less than our share.
I love all that. I love the hanging upside down and walking across the ceiling and all of that. I would get a real buzz out of it. I kind of treat it as if I've paid to do it. And I would probably pay it because I like that sort of stuff. Now, if they had to bury me in a coffin and or in a really tight space or something, that might be a different story.
Requiescat in pace. Hello, Gabriel.
If anyone's really got pressure in this movie, it's him. Because, you know, Gary Oldman did a great job. There's so many great Draculas, and it's not a lot of people can list. I mean, Van Helsing has been played before, but not a lot of people remember them like they do Dracula.
Before you go, allow me to reintroduce myself. I am Count Władysław Dracula. Born 1432. Murdered 1462.
It's such a treat for me to work with Richard Roxburgh because I first saw Richard on stage when I was 21 years old, and it was right around that time when I was contemplating becoming an actor, and I remember his performance so vividly. And since then, I've seen him do what I think is the best Hamlet I've ever seen, and some stuff on television and film, which is remarkable. And people used to ask me when I first came out, who do you look up to? And I used to say Richard Roxburgh and Geoffrey Rush and these great Australian actors. And I told Steve this. He says, I love it. He says, because you guys are enemies, and I want there to be that feeling of awe as well as competition between the two of you.
You're too late, my friend.
Not that it's very competitive, it doesn't feel very competitive, but it's certainly acting opposite Richard, who's a wonderful actor. It feels like you got to bring out your best, you know.
You are too late, my friend. My children live.
Then the only way to kill them is to kill you.
Correct.
I love the myths and the legends. I had no interest in exploding them, but I had a lot of interest in expanding them. I love these characters, and I love some of their iconography, the way they look. But Dracula's on Sesame Street, so clearly you can't have the widow's peak and the cape. There's a couple scenes where he wears a cape, and it's really to great effect, but never because we're like winking or nodding or laughing at the character.
I did a lot draw about Dracula. The first idea was the contemporary dress, but Steve told me no, it's a danger come maybe too much pop star, and we decided the style the 18th century, but with the touch much modern.
Action, Richard.
The first cape that I did for the test is a black and the inside is a red. But during the test, I tell me, no, is it too much?
There's that bat again. Dracula turns into a bat, but I'm not afraid of bats. I thought, but what if my bat had a 15-foot wingspan? That'd be different.
Steve was very keen on having this dual thing between something more human and extremely beastie-like. We hint at during the earlier parts of the film, but you don't really fully understand what's going to happen to Dracula. Particularly with the Hell Beast, he really wanted him to go all the way to a creature, and so not really retain a shred of humanity after he was done.
I had done a design for that, taking Dracula's kind of nightmarish image of what he represents and kind of bringing that to life, which really doesn't have much to do with the actor or a human. It's more that just essence of evil that he represents. Add a lot of bat feature into the face and, you know, giant claws and this kind of pumping him full of adrenaline, you know what I mean? This super uber bat creature.
It took me maybe 2 hours to come up with the design. It was just done, and it felt right. I brought it in, they felt it was right, we all liked it. We were great, just like we just showed the director, he loved it, that was it. A lot of this is mimicking the sonar ribbing of a bat. Vampire bat has like these gutters where the blood can trail out so it can do its thing.
A lot of that is informed by character. If it's an evil creature, you want to make sure that there's some sense of menace and anger and venom that exists with the character on every level, the way that they look, their color, you know, how they move, all of those sorts of things.
It makes him so evil. I mean, it's so blasphemous and evil that, you know, yeah, it makes him a great villain.
Give me life!
I put a lot of effort in the writing of the script and writing of that character, and then I happened to get Richard. And it's funny, my wife saw a couple of Richard's scenes cut together, and the next day I heard her on the phone to one of her friends, and she said, "You're just not gonna believe this guy's playing Dracula." Starting off, I kind of had the least interest in Dracula because I thought, oh God, you know, it's been done so many times and done brilliantly several times. And how do you top that? And especially when it's not called Dracula. And so Richard had his work cut out for him. Richard has no fear. And he took it, and the proof is in the pudding. He did a great job as Dracula.
And beg the devil